and you feel...
Cut. I'm calling it. That's a cut. That's a cut.
What's he on about?
Get rid of
Oh,
it.
he's losing his. Look at the blanket he's wearing. He's clearly deranged.
It's an old fucking man. Good morning, welcome to the Hobby Breakfast Show, kicking off your morning with Wargaming chat. As always, your hosts are myself, Odd. We have the hater of Urukai, OT.
Proud of it.
Hate and proud, yeah, there you go. And we have the man, the myth, the legend. Some say that he could beat Jay Clare with Assault on Helm's Deep.
I did.
Almost.
Not
It's not such a good story when it's you've almost beaten Jay Clare. But anyway, it's the mayor.
Good morning, everyone. Why the hell are you holding the microphone like that? You're not.
I don't know. I'm just hoping that maybe it makes the audio sound better.
It does actually sound a lot better, to be fair.
Oh, there you go. I'll just hold it like this in front of my face for the rest. So,
Definitely.
good, right. We probably don't need that then. I'll drop it back down if it's louder. So, news, Rings of Power episode. Are we on episode 7 now?
Yep.
That was 7, wasn't it?
That was 7. What did we think of episode 7? As always, spoiler free. Well, I mean, as always, you're inevitably going to spoil it now.
The end product is spoiler free.
The end product is spoiler free. Yeah, thank you.
I loved it when beep.
Yeah.
Mayor actually made the beep noise there that wasn't put in afterwards.
Well, half of me's hoping that the beep gets put over it, but now I know that. There's no beep. This is all in.
Yeah, that's all in.
Onod has a very minimal editing style.
Well, it used to be very minimal until you deliberately started just deliberately making errors so that I had to edit that. But it was a good episode, wasn't it?
It was. A solid 9 out of 10 for me. Really good.
A little bit high for me. I think my initial reaction was an 8. I think I'm now maybe sitting at a 7.5.
No. Decimal points. What changed?
I just think that, like, I'm trying to like rationalize it, and I think that the reason why I liked it so much is because I didn't like the previous episodes a lot. So I think I've now overcompensated in my scoring of the initial 8. But I do still think it was very good, and personally the best episode of the season.
Yeah, I agree.
And then OT, you think it's top 2 episodes? Is that right?
It and the second episode are kind of tied, in my opinion. Like it's a lot of personal choice. The only thing that annoyed me was the
don't say it.
Was the
just don't say it. There's no point because I'll have to edit it out. Just don't say it. I think the best thing about this episode, without being spoilery, that word, sure,
we'll allow it.
All the characters and the different plot threads actually progressed at a rate in which it felt well paced.
Yeah.
And the dialogue was better.
Yeah, the dialogue was really good. I think that was the most striking difference for me. Like, Galadriel felt like a proper elf. She was reasonable. She could see her own flaws. She was giving sound, wise advice.
Yeah. Anyway, that was good. That's
all getting cut.
That will be cut down to
how much of that is
3-minute section. Complete random.
We should talk about it before and then just dissect it into non-spoiler and spoiler stuff. Anyway.
Good. Other news. There was a 40k reveal show.
There was,
which was really good, wasn't it, OT?
It happened. It's the best 40k. It's the best 40k reveal stream I've ever seen.
Yeah,
and I can say that with my hand on my heart.
So for the many listeners out there, I decided it would be funny. It'd be funny to make OT watch the entire live stream for this event.
Yeah.
Which the live streams really kind of like often are kind of setting themselves up for failure
Yes.
Like they say, like this is going to be a huge. They always say this. They're always like, this is going to be huge. They build up people's expectations. All the YouTubers spend like 2 weeks going like, oh, might be 10th edition. Oh, and then everyone's like, it's 10th edition. And then when they reveal it's not 10th edition, everyone's disappointed. It's like, why? The thing I don't get is, why don't they just say the things that they're going to reveal, just not the specifics? Why don't they say, going to be great 40k reveals, we're going to reveal a new game mode, and we're going to show off some of the Imperial Guards? We'll get on to the specifics then if we roll through. So first of all, they revealed that there is going to be new guards. So we have a battle box.
Yeah.
What they call it?
Yeah, it was a battle box.
A big box of shit. So you've got a new HQ squad, which looks pretty good. It looks essentially like the old one, but they're better proportions. Mm-hmm. You get 2 kits of Cadian chaff. I don't know what their actual name is.
Guardsmen.
Well, they're not called Guardsmen anymore, are they? They're called Astra Militarum.
Yeah, but the actual
Militarums, two squads of Militarums, and they look alright. I really like the new las guns. This is like very random, but I think the new design on the las guns is lovely.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you agree with me, or if you even looked at them in much detail.
Who are you talking to?
Either of you. Well, do you know what las gun is, OT?
Well, as you know, having watched the stream, I am now something of a 40k expert. I think las gun is derived from laser and gun, and they put the two together. Well, see, that's the kind of stuff having watched an hour an hour and 10 because it overran.
They're often affectionately called flashlights.
Okay.
Because they're actually pretty useless. Because laser gun makes them sound good.
Yeah.
When they're actually the worst regular gun in the game, I think. They have released new, what are they called? Field ordnance batteries. This is the coolest bit,
artillery,
in my opinion, because it's like proper artillery.
Yeah.
And they look really sick. They look a lot like the British artillery guns from World War II.
Yeah.
Like,
that was literally when I was watching the stream, I was like, especially, is it the las gun or something?
Almost exactly. Yeah, the las gun
the
and
las cannon.
Las cannon, thank you. And the other one, the cannon. They are literally just World War II British field guns.
It's called a large bore cannon.
It's called a large bore cannon. Wow.
Yes, and the other one is a multi-missile launcher.
The multi-missile launcher, I'm less enamored with. It's fine.
Cool.
I think the other ones look better though. Like if I was going to build it, I'd purely for aesthetics and not build one of those. The Sentinels look fine. I'm not entirely sure why they've redesigned the Sentinel kit, because the old Sentinel kit was fine. It was one of the newer plastic kits in the range. It did the job. I built like 2. They build together really nicely. They're customizable. They look nice. But apparently they needed a new one. So they've made one. It looks almost the same. But
I mean, you could say the same about basically everything they've created here, but it's all just really nice.
But at least the Guardsmen are like, they were horribly proportioned, whilst these ones are like much better proportions. The Sentinels were fine, but they look nice, and they've now got a weird tail. So that's new. And they have a pintle mounted weapon, because having one weapon on something is not enough in modern 40k. That's essentially just useless on the battlefield. At least 2 guns are now needed. The new commissar looks really cool. That's what I have to say about that.
His head looks a bit small.
It's just in proportion.
I think his head's a bit small, but maybe. At least compared to the proportion of the heads on the other miniatures.
Maybe he's just got a really big fucking coat on.
maybe.
Maybe he's actually 3 children stood on top of each other. We can hope that is the case. And the new heavy weapons teams look really good. They're a massive improvement on the old ones.
Yeah.
And I think it looks like they've reduced the base size to a 50 mil.
I think those ones were always that size.
No, they were 60 mil. I built them. Yeah.
So the artillery are now 60 mil. Are the artillery actually new, or did they always have those artillery?
No, they never had the field ordnance batteries. They're completely.
They're massive bases, aren't they?
Yeah, they look bigger than 60 mil, to be honest.
They're 100. I think they're 100.
100 mil. They've made those 50. They've made those 50, haven't they? 80. So it looks a bit better.
Yeah. Well, they described the 100 ones as like a mini diorama, which I think was reaching a bit. But like, I sort of get what they're going with. Like, you have quite.
They're not really a diorama.
I know. Like that. But I mean, in the context of the stream, that was the thing that caused me to roll my eyes the least. Like, it wasn't too.
The only issue with 100 mil bases, where are you going to be able to put them?
Yeah, and you're gonna, as a guard player, you're probably gonna have quite a lot of them potentially.
That's 10 centimeters. That's huge.
Imagine bringing one of those to.
Yeah, it's a bit like
trying to wing one through the fucking Space Hulk.
It's
like, I'm not going to get through that corridor. Arcs of Omen. OT has an issue with the name. Don't know why.
It's so stupid.
It's fine.
Arcs of Omen.
There are multiple arcs. They're ominous.
Yeah, I know, but it sounds like, I don't know, a teenager's emo band's first album.
Well, everything in 40k sounds like a emo teenage band's.
I know. Maybe I'm just new to this, and you're more adapted.
I'd say you're splitting hairs. The interesting thing about this is that they're going to be releasing a new way to play 500-point games, which uses the kill team scenery. I think, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, and you build a spaceship, not an actual one.
No.
Like just some walls, really, and then you play a 500-point game there, and they're not allowing you to take vehicles or monsters, but nothing about large artillery pieces. So you want to wheel that massive cannon and try and fit it through. You would be able to deploy it, but you might not be able to move it from where you deployed it.
Perfect.
I think it's a cool idea. I think the test will be how expensive is the terrain.
Yeah.
Because I can kind of see if you're like, you slap down £75 and you never have to buy any terrain ever again. I can kind of be like, that's actually probably not too bad for a new player. If it's like £100, then it's like you might as well just buy normal terrain at that point.
You don't have to buy it. It's not something you have to buy with the game. It's just for the people who want it.
Yeah, but I think like 500-point games are for new players, right?
Not necessarily. You can create a new army and build it up.
I think most 40k players, if they aren't new, are going to play at higher points than that. Most of them. I realise that there will be some exceptions. So I feel like if you're going to specifically design rules for a 500-point game, you should make it noob friendly. Personally, but we'll see. The issue I think it runs into otherwise is why play this over kill team. Good. New kill team. Now Mayor can talk about something that he enjoys. Kasurakin, the Cadian elite, versus Necrons. And you also get some bolt guns strapped to a trailer. 10 out of 10.
Would buy again.
Would buy again. Mayor, do you want to actually chip in with your thoughts, because you actually will have thoughts?
Sure. The terrain is fine. It's basically the same terrain as you get in the new starter set with the crew and the things. Which is fine because I was actually looking to buy it, but you can only get it on eBay from scalpers if you just want the terrain. So that's good. The terrain comes with like different rules and stuff that you can play.
Yeah.
The little robots, no idea what they're going to be used for. could be interesting. The Necrons, they look okay. Question mark. There's a couple of new looking units. There's like the little Scarab.
They're not new.
Are they not new? They look bigger than Scarabs, though.
No, they came out like at the beginning of 9th edition.
So are any of these models new? And none of them new?
One is new, the guy with a staff.
The main dude.
No, not the main dude, the guy who's
the main dude's not new either.
No, that's a 40k character model. It's Cryptech.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, in that case, I mean, it's still good because essentially there are lots of kill teams at the moment in the compendium which give you the rules for vanilla armies like Necrons and Tyranids who don't have their own unique kill team like a lot of factions do, and this will give Necrons a chance to have their own unique kill team that has more than just Necron warriors, death marks, immortals, and stuff like that. They'll get these 2 special characters, it looks like, along with some death marks, 1 immortal, which will be the heavy weapon for the team, and then the 2 scarab looking things, which will be probably fast and not very good, but at least they're
as I understand it, the one with the little green orb in front of it is a regenerating guy, so I think he will have some sort of rule that allows him to either heal or make the Necrons come back to life, because that's their law.
Right.
And I think the other one makes plasma weapons stronger or something.
Okay, so at least they're unique. So that's fine. Yeah. That's good. Then you've got the other team, which are more. They're essentially the new Cadians, but in a kill team, which is fine. They've obviously thought, well, while we're releasing those, we might as well make a kill team for them. But also, there's already a guard.
The veteran guard.
Yeah, there's already one. It would have been nice to have maybe the Tyranids, for example, who don't have anything at the moment and are not very good.
And now we have the Lord Invocatus. Yeah. So the reason I don't like this is he looks like you have just glued a regular Khorne Berserker on the back of a Juggernaut. He doesn't.
That's basically what it is.
Yeah, but that's why I mean by it looks like a bad kit bash.
I think it looks cool. That's just
okay. Cool. Good. So that kill team box, which was very whelming, is coming out next week. Apparently, a quick turnaround, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it's very whelming as a turnaround.
Fucking buy it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're releasing dice. They've also got kill team playing cards.
Ooh.
Is that a thing in Kill Team? These playing cards are great for any fan of the fast-paced skirmish game. They feature artwork from Kill Team Octaris, Kill Team Chalmar, Kill Team Morok, and Kill Team Nachmund. Are great for both playing cards with and generating a space hulk using the rules found in Kill Team Into the Dark. So are they actual playing cards?
I think they're cards you play with. I don't think they're playing cards.
They feature artwork from Kill Team.
But it says they are great for both playing cards with and generating a space hulk. It sounds like they're just a deck of.
I think they're just a deck of regular cards, yeah. But with
nice.
Yeah, but it sounds like they're also going to make it so that you somehow generate terrain with a set of playing cards, which is interesting.
I will not be buying those. Skip over the Titanicus stuff, boring. Middle Earth, here we go. They're what do they call it? When they get all the models back into the range and then they phase out of ones. That
rotating.
Rotation. Thank you.
Not.
They're rotating in. Mounted Boromir. Very whelming.
Yeah, so whelming.
So whelming.
I didn't even know that model existed. It looks a bit rubbish.
It is. Yeah. Blackroot Veil Commanders. They're quite good.
Yeah.
I like those models. Elendil and Isildir. I don't know why I said that name so weird.
Made to order, that's what it is.
It's not a made to order. These are permanent additions to the range.
Are they? What, they're just coming back?
Yeah, it's the rotation. Did you miss the bit where OT said the word?
I did. I just assumed you meant the other thing, which I remember the name for.
Good. I'll
But
cut.
Of course, I was wrong. You're not going to cut it.
Probably not. Why does Isildur have a mounted model, but Elendil doesn't?
Elendil doesn't. Thank you. I was looking at this. I was like, what? Why?
We do see Isildur on a horse briefly, but
can Isildur use the One Ring on a horse? Does it make the horse go miserable?
Yes,
I'm guessing
he
not.
can. He can. I think he can. I think he can phase through. But you'd have to double check the rules for the One Ring, because I think he's the only. Yeah, I think he's the only ring bearer who can be mounted.
I'm calling sus on that. That is. Surely in a game as detailed as Middle-earth, they wouldn't allow Isildur to go invisible with his horse. The Haradrim King makes his return. I'm sure that 2 people are excited about that. The Mahud King makes his return, which I'm sure thousands are
all the Mahud stuff
excited about, because these go for a lot of money on eBay, so this will drive the price.
Yeah.
This is quite a nice model. I used to own one, but I then sold it. The Mahud Raiders with their camels, and
I like those models. I think
Warrior Warbands. So they're being released in a pack of 12, which means that they'll be slightly cheaper.
Are they metal?
Yeah.
Okay. They'll be like 36 quid or something.
And then, most excitingly, next week you will be able to buy some tools.
Can I just ask, what the fuck is the point of the scalpel blade, that twirly bit? What is that for? Is that meant to be a grip? What is it? What's going on there?
I think that's so you can replace the blade.
Oh.
It will hold the blade. And then when you want to swap them, you unscrew that and it'll fall out. And then you put in a new blade. I haven't used one because obviously they haven't been released, but that is what my keenly trained tool eye is telling me.
Oh, they're just going to be so expensive, aren't they?
They don't look very good quality, to be honest. The cutters look fine, but you can buy cutters for like £4 and they will work for like 2 years. So these are I price prediction £15 for that pair of cutters is my prediction.
20, I reckon.
20? Oh, yeah. Fuck off. The mold line remover, just use your knife. You don't need a mold line remover. I reckon that will be £12. The knife actually looks all right. I'll give them that. I think that the scalpel blades are actually usually meant to be quite good, aren't they? The issue will be is if they don't sell the scalpel blades separately, once you have blunted all of those, do you then have to buy an entirely new knife?
They're just standard scalpel blades. You can just.
I suppose you just go to Hobbycraft and buy some new ones. So actually, if the handle's good quality, that might actually potentially not be a bad purchase. But again, I reckon that'll be £20. It comes with more bits. And then the drill only comes apparently with 4 size drill bits. Like honestly, just go on Amazon. You can buy one with like 30 drill bits for about like a tenner. Yeah, and it will probably be better quality because that one again doesn't look great quality.
You can see on all the tools where they've got the Citadel Tools logo. On the knife, it's printed nicely. On the drill, the molding remover, it just looks like it's barely even been printed properly. Like bits of it just looks shit.
Do you know what I reckon has happened there? I reckon that they've given it to somebody to do some videos, like a how to use video that they'll put on Warhammer Community, and that they forgot to take the photos before they film the video. And I reckon that's from using them and it rubbed off.
Well, if they're using they're probably using an in mold thing, or so in theory, it should be like part of the plastic essentially. But Yeah, you could be right. It might be added after, or it could be a prototype. I don't know.
I reckon it's just cheaply slapped on. To be honest.
Yeah.
Just like printed on with shitty stamp sort of thing. Right, hobby. May you can start off.
I do actually have a little bit of hobby. I was scrounging around thinking what I could talk about. So obviously my Burrows and Badgers miniatures have arrived, thankfully. Some hairs and a load of stuff. My partner. I'm also going to bolt. How many hairs? I fit 4 in the list currently, and they're all equipped with at least one thing. So the other thing is I'm going to a bolt action tournament next weekend, and in order to distinguish my squads from one another, I printed some little doodads, which I'm holding up to screen, which I will send
some doodads.
A picture. So these
I will visually describe them for the audience. One is a white circle with the Mercedes logo on.
So essentially,
some squiggles.
So essentially, it's a springy thing. You can see it moving. So it's got these tabs around the outside, and it's so that I can put it. It's 25mm diameter. I can put it on the bottom of a dude's base.
Yeah, and gain a slight height advantage. So he's now in white squad or whatever. I've got about 10 with one nub each. So there's three sets of nubs, and then this one's just a different color, but nub. So this one's got 3 on it. So the NCO of each squad will have 3 nubs. Nubbing.
And then the ones with like special weapons and stuff will have 2. It's just so that my horde of Soviet dudes don't get mixed up. And that
that's a good plan.
Me and my opponent can both see where the like heavy weapons are and where the NCO is and stuff like that. So that's the extent of my hobby this weekend.
OT.
Hi.
You have also done some hobby.
I have.
Consisting of
The Last of My Riv Knights. So it will be, by the time this is released, it will be all 6 of them done. And then I've only got, I think it's like 3 models. Yeah, I've only got 3 models left to paint before our epic tournament outing in March or whenever it is.
So fucking long away, you boys.
Yeah, as we rock the competitive meta.
Cool. On to me.
You've actually done some hobby.
I have carried this week, as often seems to be the way that we take it in turns to actually do stuff rather than all doing stuff.
Wow.
Okay. Strong.
Very self-proclaimed there.
Yeah.
I've painted 3 models. Holy shit. That's triple my output of last week. Just have you know.
And you're going to tell us what your Burrows and Badgers list is, allegedly.
I will. So my final model is the owl.
Yeah. Let's see.
It's on screen now.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Can you not
for the listeners.
Can you not see it? God. Magic.
Yes, it looks amazing. Oh my gosh.
I sent all the images earlier so that you could fucking look at them. Yeah. Muppet.
You sent them already?
You fucking replied.
Is that an owl? He's got no wings.
Well, yeah.
Fuck you. How was I meant to know that was an owl? There's no fucking wings.
His wings are under the armor.
No, they're not.
Well, they are in my heart.
Okay. So, no, I think they just got chopped off. You should go with that.
The owl is the last member of the elite group.
And so what else is in there?
So the final list is the Dog Knight with the shield and mace.
Yeah.
He's the leader. The Cleric Dog with the dual-wielding hammers, who is going to be given the Paladin special, which means they can wear armor and be a mad magician.
Do you know what spells he's going to take?
Probably something healing.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah.
The Budger who is the big chongus of the list. He is going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting, I predict.
Yeah.
With a spear. And the owl, who, as far as I can tell, is allowed to wear very heavy armor and still fly. So,
despite his lack of wings,
can't find any rules which say that
No, you're right.
they can't fly.
It just gives him a penalty to his evasion or whatever it's called.
Yeah. But he's got a big old fucking stick with a pointy end on.
It's a halberd or something, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Which he will use when he isn't flying, and then when he does fly, he will scratch people with his claws, his beak.
Cool. Is
That's
there one more in that list?
No,
that's it. Okay.
And then the other B&B model that I painted is a little moose. It's quite cute.
A big moose?
A little moose. It's a little one. Little moose. I quite liked the moose. You can't really tell in the photo that I've sent, but it's about hobbit height.
Right.
But obviously, like proportion-wise, very different. I was quite happy with the little face, actually.
Yeah, it was good.
Little nose. And then the other model that I have painted is a little tester model, my next project, a late Roman infantryman for line rampant, who I was pretty pleased with. It's 15 mil, just in case that's not clear in the images. So it's very small. And I had to paint the shield freehand because I didn't have any transfers. I was pretty happy with my attempt at doing a Cairo.
Is that what the P is called?
Well, it's two Greek letters, Chi and Rho. So Chi is a cross, and then Rho looks like an English P, and then you combine them.
What's the significance of that?
So it's an early Christian symbol for Christ, because Cairo are like the first letters in Christ's name.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I was pretty pleased with that. I think I weirdly managed to do the P a lot better than I meant to, so the future ones aren't going to look as nice, because I managed to get like a proper little flick.
Mm.
I'm not going to be able to replicate that. I'm not that good. That was an accident, but it looks very good. So this one will go at the front. And 50 mil is super easy to paint. I think I painted that in under an hour.
Wow.
Easy. I was painting my Burrows and Badgers models, and I literally just like every time I put a Burrows and Badgers model down, I just slapped on another paint color on that. No one oil washed the whole thing, which darkened the shield down too much. So I then did a red highlight on the shield, which then made it too flat, as we discussed. So then I went back and dry brushed the shield a little bit, which has made a minor difference, but it looks a little bit better. Just it looks like it's got a little bit of mud when he's been resting it on the ground. So that is hobby. Let's have a chat then about units that we have under or over S.
Can I not go first? Because since the revelation that we can pick literally any war game we've ever played, I've had to think quite a lot about this over the past week. And a week almost doesn't seem enough time to think about that.
Yeah. Sometimes it seems like
almost,
about 15 minutes.
It almost doesn't. It almost doesn't feel like a week at all.
Time flies when you have
How the time flies.
But in all seriousness, I have two units, but
okay.
I'm happy for you two to go first if you want.
I will start.
Yeah, if you want to start.
I always introduce one of you to start, so I'm happy to go first. Units then that I have underestimated. There you go. I'm going to start off with a unit that I underestimated when I was the one playing. That makes sense?
You were playing the unit that you underestimated.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
We're talking here it is going to be a Middle-earth unit, and I will be talking about a non-Middle-earth unit later, but the humble Isengard demolition team.
Yeah.
Which I thought were good.
That.
I thought were good, but I think they're actually way more useful than I realised before I took them, because my Isengard list, where we all built 700 point lists. # go check out the blog. Link in the description.
Nice plug.
I'll probably now forget to put the link in the description.
Ding our bell.
Yes, hit subscribe.
Hit that bell.
We need a bell. One of us needs to buy a bell.
Okay.
Hang on. If there is a bell noise in Anchor, it will sound now. There probably isn't though. So that's probably just been fucking like empty noise. Yes. But when we built our list, I wanted to build an Isengard list that's based around when the Ents are attacking Isengard, because I don't really massively play evil armies, but I wanted to build an evil army as something different because I don't have one. I do, however, have an Ent army, so I wanted like the evil equivalent. However, obviously, an all-orc Isengard army is garbage. So I was like, I'm going to put in some demo teams to simulate the, like, in the books, Saruman has all of these like machines which are like said to like spit out like flame and stuff. That the Ents, that's why they like wash the water into Isengard. So I brought 2 demo teams to kind of represent that, and then I didn't take any other Uruk-hai. I did it purely for fluff, and so that I had something that could kill a big hero. After playing that list, I know I got a little bit lucky with the dice rolling, but I'm not going to talk about the fact that they can like blow up. They're just so useful for like zonal control, and I don't think I'd appreciate it. I don't think I'd appreciate it. Yeah, I don't think I'd appreciate how much board control you get.
Yeah,
because it's like you either feed in like one guy a turn so that you can't blow it up, and then obviously that guy's, unless it's like Aragorn, it's probably fun.
And he'll die anyway if you've got Saruman.
And he'll die anyway because you've got Saruman in the backfield who has an 18-inch command. So you just ping someone in. They're just really, really useful. And I think that like when Mare was talking about playing Ardacon, like in that list with the Siege Blister, like the demo team is like a low key, like everyone talks about the Siege Blister, but the demo team is like low key, kind of like when you were talking about the fact that people want to come near you to steal the blisters, but then you've got the demo team to like keep them back. Like in an Isengard list, they're just so useful, and they're also, because they're plastic, really great to get handle. # plastic. But it's just, yeah, I just really, really enjoyed using them. And they're really, really fun to play. And I don't think I'd realised how useful they were until I played that first game. And I was like, wow, like, Mare has brought like an all-cav list, but he's like having to really think about charging me. And I can kind of, and I actually used my first bomb really, really poorly in that game because I was kind of just, like, my initial thought process was I just want to blow this up as quickly as possible. And then after, like, I realized like how cagey you were being, I was like, that's not how you should use them. Like, I should be holding this ready to use, but if I don't use it, it's still serving a purpose. Yeah. And actually, they're really very, very small distraction carnifexes.
They are. Yeah.
That's what they are. They're a tiny little, like, bite-sized 25mm base distraction carnifex.
Except they can also do massive damage. Like, you're right, yeah. If you leave them alone, they will absolutely wreck shit up. And having Saruman, I think, makes them 10 times better. The bomb itself is basically 45 points because you're paying for a Berserker and 2 dudes with probably flaming brands.
And that's the other thing, right? Because in the game I played against OT, I just dropped the bomb.
Yeah.
And I just launched my Berserker into combat, and it just dealt with stuff. Actually, it's not that expensive because you get a Berserker and two Uruk-hai with it. It's actually like you're kind of, this is actually a good investment.
Essentially, for the cost of an Orc captain with a shield, which is 45 points, you have bought a bomb that you may or may not want to use, but it's there if you want it, and you can blow up. Essentially, if your opponent has a hero, it's worth taking a bomb because you can just destroy that hero straight away. It's a massive deterrent. It's zone control.
The other thing that I realised and why they brought in the FAQ is you can blow up your own dudes.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit of a kind of like it's a little bit douchey. But at least you have to be clever about it because of the FAQ. You can't just do what you could have done, which is just blow it up without any enemy being nearby. You at least have to kind of play the game to do it. But
I think they should have worded it slightly differently. I think they should have. I think they should have done two things. It should have been you need to be able to do more wounds to your opponent than yourself by 2, because you're always going to have probably someone carrying it and the Berserker with the bomb. So you need at least the equivalent wounds on your opponent's side plus 2. That way, you can't do what you're suggesting, where you just drag 2 people in with 1 wound and blow up 2 wounds worth of opponents and like 15 wounds worth of your own guys to end the game.
Which is the patented on-odd way of winning a game of Reconnoitre, which is to blow up your entire army before all the enemies have the opportunity to reach your board edge.
Having run your Crabane off in the first 3 turns.
I mean, I saw it coming. It was slow motion car crash for me. Yeah. I was watching you ignore the Crabane, and I was thinking,
but I was like, that's the problem because they got fly. Like they're so hard to tie down. Like they've just literally flown over me.
And they can kill. They can kill horses like they're nothing.
Yeah. Peck them in the eyes.
Yeah,
they're very good at killing horses. Yeah,
they really are.
I actually think that. I don't think you need to change rules as it is, because I think the issue with the demo team is if you do what Mayor's suggesting is you just then never take them.
Yeah.
And I think that they're like a fun little thing, just something different, and I think you want to be able to take them.
They're high risk, high reward, I suppose.
They're high risk, high rewards. I think that basically the reason why I've had such success with them was because of Saruman, number 1, and number 2, because OT didn't realise what I was going to do. Because
I think you played them very well as well. Like, I made a mistake where I left a guy out that you dragged into Aragorn and then blew them both up. OT did the same. I think you played it very well, to be honest. You played it very well.
But
I tried to counter you, didn't I, by charging in 1 horse.
Yeah.
Because Saruman has an effective 28-inch range with his command. Yeah. Like I should have left him further back, but I assumed I was safe because Saruman was literally on the other side of the board, but he was just in range. And then like that won you the game. Because actually I think if you hadn't done that, I think I'm not saying I would have won, but I would have had a much better chance.
I think actually the change that I would make to the bomb team is that you can't blow them up after a heroic march.
Yeah.
But you might be using that to get to your opponent. Like marching doesn't really matter.
I think
3 inches of range, though, doesn't it?
But think about a heroic march. The intent behind a heroic march is you can move, but you can't enter combat.
Yeah.
But then it's weird that you can move and effectively have a combat with your bomb because you've like run an extra distance. Like I just feel like that makes them almost a little bit too useful. That you can call a heroic move and like yeet them up the board.
Heroic move doesn't help you. You mean
March?
Sorry.
March. Sorry, March. Yeah. Sorry. Did I say move? I meant March.
Yeah. I mean, I think as well, a lot of people will anticipate the bombs being really good, and I think maybe you did underestimate their power. But now,
but then that's why they're so useful because of the distraction. Yeah. Anyway, definitely. I've somehow spoken about bombs for 10 minutes. Let's move on.
What's your other one then?
Well, the other unit I was going to say that I underestimated is in 40k just like regular Orc boys, and I haven't played 40k properly since like 5th or 6th edition, so it might have changed. But I just always used to think, oh yeah, it's fine. They have like a 6-up save, it'll just shoot them. But then they just there's just too many of them. And I think this is like true of any Horde army, isn't it? You always kind of think Aragorn can kill 5 Moria goblins a turn statistically, but then you don't really think about like actually the Moria goblin player is probably just going to charge him 1 Moria goblin, so that you can't maximize your.
I like that you're trying to think of an equivalent Middle Earth SBG metaphor for our listeners.
Well, it's also for OT as well, just because
he doesn't understand.
I feel like your experience of Orc Boys essentially comes from me. And
I
obviously played a lot of 40k after you'd stopped playing it, and a lot of the Orc Boys kind of power came from their buffs. And although they start with like 2 or 3 attacks, and then you get +1 if there are 20 or more in the unit. You get +1 if Ghazghkull Thrak is within certain range. You get +1 if they've charged in the turn, and suddenly they're on 6 attacks each, and there are 30 of them. Like I had to use dice apps when I played Green Tide because I had 100 boys in a unit, and they all had all these bonuses. Like it is a bit ridiculous, but that's kind of one of the appeals of 40k, I think. Like if you're not being competitive, it can be batshit insane, and you can do stupid stuff in it, and it's hilarious and it works. And you're right. Orc boys look unintimidating, but when there's lots of them, it's classic Horde.
It's the classic on paper. You don't really read into it, but then when you start stacking buffs, it's like, oh my god, how do I deal with this? Because there's just not enough time in a game to kill the number of boys. Obviously, like we're talking about specific editions here. I don't know if it's like that in 9th.
I don't know. I think Orcs are still okay. I think they seem viable, but they're not. They're not. I
think in 9th you spam the like buggies and stuff, don't you?
I don't know, honestly.
This is where 9th meta moves so quickly that I can't keep on.
I think I sort of left my Orcs in their boxes when tank busters were really good, and I've got loads of tank busters, but I think it sort of moved away from that. I think you sort of had a death ball of looters and stuff now, but your swarm looks shit on paper good because there are lots of them concepts. I'm now thinking of obviously the mice army that I designed that I didn't end up going with.
Here we go.
My Burrows and Badgers. And I think it's one of those. I don't think it works for Burrows and Badgers because they are shit on paper, and I don't think. I mean, having more guys for Burrows and Badgers doesn't stack as much. You get the -1 when you're swarming people, but it's not as good. Anyway, sorry. Sidetrack.
I think the hordes work in army games, but in skirmish games where not like the game designers against hordes. You often find that there are mechanics which kind of like make a horde not very useful.
Definitely.
The unit then I'm going to say that I overestimate is another one that I play rather than play the games. It is normal Ents.
Yes, okay. I know where this is going.
I think you look at an Ent like stat line and you think like, no,
wow.
This is going to do some damage.
And you also
exactly. You also look at a normal Ent stat line and you think this thing is going to take some big hits because it's defense 8. But then because it has no might and fate points, actually they're not quite as you can't throw them in quite as willy-nilly as I think you expect. And actually much like all SBG armies, when I play my Ents, I find that my heroes end up doing all the work. It's like a weird one, isn't it? Where you're like taking this like big 120 point warrior who's fight 7, and sure, they will obviously kill more than a normal warrior, but they're not actually quite as good as I always think they're going to be.
It's one of those.
I'm always
when you
slightly
roll well,
underwhelmed by them.
yeah. When you roll well,
when
they're
you roll
really
well,
good, and when you roll shit, they're shit.
But it's as soon as you're up against, it's as soon as you get trapped against people with two-handed weapons, and you roll 3 dice, and you roll a 1, a 3, and like a 4, and then they roll their dice and they roll a 6, and they're like, 6, I've lost, and then they've got the two-handed weapons, and they double them, and they just like kill your end, and you're like, oh.
It's classic Lord of the Rings matchups, though, isn't it? It's rock, paper, scissors, really. And I think if you're bringing Ents, good on you. It'll be fun. You'll have some shit matchups, but you'll have
very, very competitive against dwarfs.
As we found out,
especially in the late game.
In the late game, if you've got one Ent, it's fine. You'll still win.
As long as
how many dwarves there are.
As long as you can't be broken because Merry and Pippin are sitting on top of tree bird.
And as long as there's a wood in the middle of the board.
Yeah, they can chuck those stones all day.
A wood in the middle of the board is key to success. Yeah. But I think normal Ents, I'm always just like, I just think they're always going to do more work than they actually do. And it's always just like a nice reminder that it's really the might points in SVG where your power is, not in your stat lines.
Yep.
So there's mine. OT, we'll go to you next.
Are we doing underwhelming or overwhelming first?
You can do them in whatever order you like.
Okay. I actually had the bomb for one I underestimated. That was
nice.
at the top of my list. Literally, I have a couple of ones. The next one down was the Black Numenorians. Just because for what you get for 9 points, I think they are pretty absurd. Like, I was just going through now, and like, in terms of like the semi-elite troops, they're not like ridiculously expensive, but comparable to like the Royal Guard, the Swan Knights, things like that. Most of them are at least a point more, if not 2 points more. And like, you don't get the terror rule, like you lose out on maybe a point of courage, something like that. And just like, there's just such good value for what you get. And the fact they're fight 4 for a Mordor army is huge, because it does mean you can have actually some fight for front line.
Good
with
front row, yeah.
Moran's behind.
Decent defense too.
Yeah, and like, I think in the games I played against, in the games I played against you, there weren't many like Rays in the darkness, but like the Witch King was really good, and the Numenorians were really good, and obviously they're a great combo together. So yeah, I'd put them up there. The other one is a bit of a curveball. I'm gonna say Haldir.
Sorry, that you overestimated, or
no, that I slightly underestimated.
Right.
Why? He is budget Legolas in many ways, but like in the games we played, when we bought those 300-point lists, I know it wasn't like particularly better, but like, I think he does slightly better than you expect him to. I'm not saying he's like amazing by a long stretch. I think Legolas is still definitely better. But
he's a nice budget hero.
Yeah, and also because he's rarely going to be your leader, would be my guess. Like, I'd be surprised if he was your leader. Like, you're not that afraid that you can throw him into combat a bit, and it's not the end of the world if he dies. So yeah, I don't know. I think for 85 points, I think he actually puts in a fair amount of work.
I think I get where you're coming from, Haldir, if he's in an army with Aragorn or Theoden.
Yeah.
Because I think if you get to use that rule, then he's a lot more spicy than what you think he's going to be.
Yeah, and even the fact you can take heavy armor, which gets him to D6, which is really nice compared to. Like,
a 3 might captain.
Yeah,
who's
with strike,
fight 6 with strike.
Yeah,
he is actually fairly useful.
And like expert shots, really good. Like, being able to fire twice a turn is definitely not insignificant. So yeah,
I don't know that I would personally say Haldir is overall underwhelming. I'd say he's fairly whelming.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, but I think I had quite low expectations, and like, I think he exceeded those expectations.
He in the game that you played him, I think, didn't he end up like beating Aragorn in combat or something?
Yes, twice.
Yeah.
And actually, links into my units that I overestimated.
Didn't he also lose in combat to Sam though?
Yeah, but that's Sam is Sam's OP. Like
when I'm rolling, yeah.
Yeah, when you're rolling,
he really carries that list. Aragorn.
Yeah.
I don't know why I keep taking Aragorn. He's a waste of fucking almost 200 points.
In my, I'll switch to overestimate units because I think neither of mine particularly like revolutionary. But my number one, the one that came to mind, is Aragorn without Anduril.
Underwhelming. Yeah,
underwhelming.
I agree.
And like I think just because I've seen him quite a lot now, like he in nearly all of our games, I'm either playing with him or against him, and like his might is great for positioning, but in combat he just tends to bounce off stuff a bit. Like he doesn't actually kill stuff, and I just noted that like
strength 4 on a big hero like that. Yeah. Oh my god.
And like, because even the elf heroes, like Glorfindel, for instance, gets Lords of the West, for instance, which is really good. You get a reroll on your dual roll and a reroll on your wound roll. Like Aragorn doesn't get any of that, and yes, you can use his might, but you don't just want to be spamming it all the time. The
horse helps. The horse helps. So Mayor's list where he takes without Anduril, he was a lot more killy than in my list where I take him without a horse.
Yeah.
And in my list without a horse, which is a fellowship list, so he has to do all of the carrying because it's him and the 4 hobbits.
Yeah.
He is useless.
I'm really bad.
He can win most fights, but he just does not kill anything that you want him to kill.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that was really interesting because like despite this, I don't think he's bad. I just think it's just that he doesn't kill stuff, and like he's good for positioning. Like we always talk about that free march, as it were, that he comes with. Like especially if you're moving hobbits around the board. So that was mine, and I think if you put the sword on him, obviously he gets a lot more killy, but then he's 200 points, and that's suddenly quite a lot. The other two were both dwarves. I put down Balin because I thought he was really good, and then I've used him a few times, and I just don't think he's that good. I think it's the problem that he's 2 attacks, 2 wounds, and 1 fate. And in the list, he's nearly always going to be your leader. And like, it just doesn't seem he doesn't seem to do enough to merit being your leader. And if they can, same as with an Ent, actually, if they can surround him with 2-handed weapons, he's probably just going to die.
The main issue of dwarfs, from witnessing you play them, because I haven't played dwarfs since the rules changes. They just don't really kill stuff, do they?
No, and like I think the Khazar help with that, but then they're 11 points, and I don't know. I think
you really want to take Durin though if you're going to take.
And then the Burley upgrade's 2 points. It's only their 13 points.
I think it's worth it.
I agree. I think it's really good, but like you're not getting many guys in if you're taking 13, and they only move 5.
But what else in a dwarf army is going to kill stuff?
Yeah,
like
I agree. But I think it's maybe just a weakness with dwarves rather than like an army building thing. The other one is Iron Guard. Like it's just because they're D6, and so they die twice as quickly to shooting as a normal dwarf warrior. So why would they not get shot at when they cost 15 points? Like, they're decent when you get them in combat. They're fight 4, strength 4. That's 2 attacks. That's really good. But like, because even if they got in the ways, they're still going to shoot at them, and then they're dying on 6s rather than 6x4s. So they just always seem to die off really quickly. I think they need to be D7 to be considered. But those were mine. But I think Aragorn was the one. I think the bomb for definitely underestimated. That was one that came to mind straight away. And then Aragorn for overestimated because he just doesn't seem to kill stuff that well.
Specifically without Anduril, though.
Without Anduril.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think those are all fair. Mayor then.
So let's have a look at my little notes here. So a unit I underestimated. I went to a tournament. I was using Isengard, had lots of defense 6 stuff, but more defense 5 and 4 stuff on my side of the board. lots of feral urukai back when feral urukai were good, and no, I didn't buy them because they were good. I bought them when they were shit, when they were actually on GW shelves. So fuck you, anyone thinking that I've just net decked something. Anyway,
He liked them before they were cool.
He's lying.
No, I knew they were good. So I played against dwarves. Thought to myself, this will be fine. He's not got too many models, and got into combat with him. The unit I underestimated was the humble Dwarf Warrior. Dwarf Warrior stat line is just so good.
It's bonkers.
It's so good. So for 9 points, you're getting move 5. Now I don't think movement penalty of 1 inch for a standard isn't too bad.
Yeah.
Fight 4, really good. Strength 3, less good.
Yeah.
I prefer strength 4. I'll get on to the perfect start line in a minute. I'm going to use this as a segue. Defense 7 with a shield, 1 attack, 1 wound, courage 4. Fine. Now, up until this point, using my Isengard army, it's quite early on in my tournament history, shall we say, and I hadn't played that many dwarf players. I was used to killing basically everything with my Urukai on 5s. Strength 4 army. Now, I would say the thing that, for most armies, the strength between models, if you're taking troops, doesn't vary that much. It's one of the few stats that doesn't vary very much. So if you're taking an army of Urukai, for example, basically everything's strength 4. You're taking an army of men, everything's strength 3, etc. So taking an army strength 4, I'm used to killing things on 5s. Suddenly, I get into combat and I'm killing everything on 6s. And because they're fight 4 as well, I'm used to playing fight 3 armies. I'm losing less fights. I'm killing them at half the rate. That's massive. Half. So the change in defense value is so big for these sorts of games. And it got me thinking, and it's reinvigorated my need to paint my Iron Hill dwarves, because I wrote down what I think is the perfect stat line. It's move 6, obviously. Fight 4, because it's equal to or less than equal to or more than most of the other warriors. This is a warrior stat line. Fight 4, strength 4, because the majority of things in the game are defense 6 or less, for which you will need a 5 or higher to wound. Strength defense 7, because basically no standard troop in the game is strength 5. Correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, you've got the Barad-dûr guys, the like Urukai, but no one's taking a whole army of those. Onald's looking through his book now. I challenge you both. If you can find me strength 5
half troll.
Half troll.
No,
well,
they don't count. They're like 25 points or something.
Yeah, I think they're not troop category. I would say
that's fair. That's fair.
They're almost semi-hero at that point. But for the majority of the time, defense 7 is the absolute sweet spot. For ages, I thought defense 6 is a sweet spot, but I think more and more strength 7 is occurring. So 1 attack, 1 wound is standard for troops. That's kind of non-negotiable. And courage 4 just gives you a bit more than 50-50 chance of surviving a courage check. So defense courage 4 is ideal. And that is the stat line essentially of a Iron Hill Dwarf Warrior minus the move 6. I think 1 inch movement penalty I will happily pay the cost for. So now I just want to make my Iron Hill Dwarf army.
I mean, I'd raise you and say that the perfect warrior stat line
is it the Hobbit stat line?
Fight 7, strength 8, defense 8, attacks 3, 3 wounds, courage 6.
What Sounds like an end. Stat line is that? That's the end, is it?
It's an end, but with lower points.
Yeah, I think the thing I always loved about playing dwarves was it didn't matter if like your formation got broken, because like you could just stand there and you're D7, which means everything is wounding you on 6s. The other thing is D7 for archery is 6s by 4s. And like that's ridiculous. Even crossbows is 6s.
Yeah.
Like
I think the interesting thing is that Isengard are probably the perfect army for dwarves to play.
Yeah, they really are.
If you think about what dwarves pay their premium for, it's they're paying for fight and they're paying for defense, which cancels out both the things that Isengard play through the roof for. Like Isengard as the one hit like evil army that gets good strength and fight, pay a lot of points for that, and then dwarves just completely like take away everything they have and just make you basically orcs.
The only thing that he didn't have, obviously, was he had strength 3, so he was still killing me on 6s. But because I had barely any warriors with shields, it didn't matter. So if they were strength 4, I totally agree, which is why I think Iron Hill warriors. But I also think aren't the obviously you've got like Iron Guard, but they're defense 6, as I was saying, as you were saying, OT. But what's the Hobbit equivalent? The Grimhammers, is that what they're called?
Oh yeah, the Grimhammers. Yeah.
Aren't they? They're strength 4, aren't they?
I think so.
I think so. Well, because aren't the dwarves you're talking about? Aren't they effectively Khazar without bodyguard, but they come with shield wall or something? Is that what I'm thinking of? Am I thinking
what list
the right
is that from?
Right, is it the right Iron Hills dwarves where you can get them to D8?
Oh yeah. So they're defense 7, but they're +1.
Aren't they strength 4?
So Grimhammers are strength 3. And so are Warriors of Erebor, but the Iron Hill dwarves are strength 4.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
So you can take Iron Hill dwarves. You don't have to take them with a spear and a shield. You could take them with a mattock.
Yeah. The difference is though, the Grimhammers, you can make them better than the Iron Hill dwarves because you can make them burly by taking Thrain or whoever it is or Thror and upgrade them all. So they become essentially the same as Iron Hill dwarves. They're defense 7 by default with no shield. So you're not getting defense 8, but I think we can.
How many points is the upgrade for Thrain? Out of interest.
I want to say 1 point, but I could be wrong.
If it's the same as Durin's, it'll be 2. Which I don't know. Is it a bit too much? Should it be 1 point or is like 2 points?
Oh, sorry, my mistake. So it's not. It's that he can upgrade them for +1 point to become strength 4. So they do end up with a perfect stat line. They end up with 12 points. So actually, they are identical to Iron Hill dwarves, but they don't have a shield.
Read me the Hammerers stat line for. So they're 12 points with the strength 4. So what would their stat line be?
It's the same as Iron Hill, so it's 5-inch move, 4 fight, 4+, strength 4, defense 7, 1 attack, 1 wound, courage 4. But they're holding a 2-handed pick as opposed to a shield and spear.
Okay, so let's compare them though with Khazar, who would be 1 more point, 13 points.
Yeah,
same stat line, but they get burly and bodyguard. With Durin.
Yes, please. Yeah, that sounds better.
The Khazar with Durin are strictly better, but obviously you're paying 1 more point for bodyguard and burly.
So tell me that's the army list you're taking at Christmas. Yeah?
You could like combine them with a load of dwarf warriors as well. Like that's super sturdy. I mean, the disadvantage is you don't have like Cav.
Well, the disadvantage is you don't have access to shields, to spears. Sorry, because the Hobbit dwarf armies get both cav and spears, which is the 2 things which the Lord of the Rings dwarves don't get, which is kind of balances the Lord of the Rings dwarves. But then the cav for the Hobbit dwarves are ludicrously expensive compared to normal cav models, aren't they? They're like,
they're a bit bonkers.
They're like over 20, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which, when you compare to like a Rider of Rohan, for example, who is,
and then they are like stupidly tough. Aren't the goats like D6 or something? Aren't they? Aren't the goats like D6?
They're defense 7, I think. The goat riders. Oh no, there must be 6. The goats themselves. Yeah, they're 6. Yeah,
it's difficult to spam them though because they're so expensive. At no point, which I guess kind of stops them from. But most dwarf players, as I understand it, only take like a couple. Don't they?
But surely aren't you using them either to like tag objectives or just to like protect your flanks? Because you can hold the shield wall a bit with the spears.
Yeah, I mean they're utility models. You're not taking an army.
Yeah.
But yes, so that's one of my underestimated. I've also got Azog and Bold. Now, I know they carry a big reputation, but I played them with my Isengard list and basically lost all my heroes in one turn. And that was like well, I guess I've lost kind of moment. They're just really good. Another one was the 9 Rider Legion, as in the Nazgul. So Onod was talking at one point about making this list for his monthly painting challenge list, and I said that I thought that was an awful idea at the time because I just didn't think they were very good. Because they suck. They're bad. They're just a load of wizards on horses. Like, what are they going to do, really?
Bunch of nerds.
And then I played them in the 5th round of Arlecon, and for me, they're good. They're so good.
Because they all get the free channel transfix, don't they? The autocast sort of 6.
It's more the fact that they can all 2 dice black dart your dudes. Like, they can kill. They're up to 9 of them. They're killing whatever model they want, whatever hero model you have that they want to kill. They can kill it. They're fast. They're mobile. They're not awful in combat. They cause terror, so it's not like you're really easily able to stop them from moving where they want to go. They can manipulate any part of the battlefield. They can hit you from range. What is the range of Transfix? 12 or 18? Not Transfix, sorry. Black Dart, 12 or 18?
12.
12. Even with a 10-inch move, 22-inch threat range, they can move out of a terrain piece. Black Dart, you move back into the terrain piece, which is what happened to me quite a lot. They're just. It seems like
Harbinger stacks, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah,
like
so you're at -3 if they have 5 of them.
What's the can courage go to 0, or is 1 the lowest? What does it go down to?
I don't know. Well, presumably it can never be negative, but
because hypothetically, say you're playing Ruffians and you stack Harbinger, they could be on negative.
But they have so many courage buffs, OT. Like what? No, yeah, you're right.
One hearing is, Matt, is that I am actually a genius, and I spotted that they were good before they were.
That can be the only reason. Yeah.
But playing against that list must be hell. Like, just
it's hard imagining what your opponent's going to try and do, but also it's one of those lists where if you're good, it's going to be really good, and if you're bad, it's going to be really bad. My opponent was very tactical in the game we played, and I really enjoyed the game despite losing it. It was one of those sort of chess-esque tactical, trying to think what my opponent's going to do to win type games. But it was really interesting, and I think, Onod, I look forward to seeing your 9 riders on the battlefield at some point.
Nothing says fun like chess.
So,
or a chess clock.
Why do I mention that? So a unit I overestimated was a really shit unit called the Dragon Emperor. No, just take 2 ballistas with reroll to hits and you'll be fine. I took Thorin with Thorin's company, and man, strength 4 on a hero with no bonuses to wound is really bad. And it comes back to what you were saying about Aragorn. Strength 4 on a big hero with no bonuses to wound is really bad. You take Thorin on a goat, and he obviously gets double attacks. He gets free combats, but if he can't kill anyone, what's the point?
Yeah, he can't move on.
Yeah, so for he needs 6s against dwarves. I mean, what is that? Thorin needs 6s against dwarves. He needs 5s against basically everything else, and I just don't think he's lethal enough. I think he should get a +1 or something, but I used him and Thorin's company at a tournament for which I happily won best sport for. It was a really fun event. I wore like a big helmet, like the dwarf helmet thing that I made. And Thorin, I mean, I was throwing Dwalin and Gloin into combat, who obviously have their bonuses, and they just absolutely wrecked. And everyone else was pretty rubbish. especially Thorin. I expected Thorin to be good. He doesn't feel as good as he should.
When I was doing my Riv Knights list, Elrond's going to be my main hero, and even with him, I'm a bit worried because like he's got Lord of the West, which lets them reroll 1 dice in the dual roll and 1 dice on their wound. But again, like it is only strength 4. It's not like you're getting like with dwarves. I'm used to like a Master Forge 2-handed axe, which is effectively like giving you +1 to wound.
He has an elf blade though, right?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, like
so it could be.
I'm not super worried, and also like Elrond isn't strictly a combat hero. Like he does have some utility, so it's not.
He's gonna.
But he's expensive.
He's gonna be casting a Wrath of Brudan and knocking down the key model that he wants to shop. If they don't have will to resist. So
like I guess he has more manipulation, whereas like Thorin is just genuinely relying on just charging in there, killing as much as he can.
I am strictly in favour of all Hobbit armies being banned.
Being bad?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Mayor did mention Azog and Bolg being like a bit strong.
They should be nerfed.
They're made up characters anyway. Maybe just remove them from the rulebook.
Just get rid of them.
I do have one more for my overestimated list, and this is bolt action related. So World War II, you can take a Tiger tank, and a couple times I've come up against an enemy list with a Tiger tank, and the Tiger tank takes up over 1/3 of your army. And the list that I took each time, I mean, I wasn't like tailoring my list. This was a tournament, so I didn't know what I was going to come up against. But my army doesn't have any like big tanks or things that a Tiger tank can shoot at and blow up. So I had like soft top vehicles, loads of infantry, a couple of like anti-tank guns, and the enemy Tiger tank was like just looking for something to make itself useful. And a bit like the analogy of Aragorn fighting an army of hobbits. What? I mean, there's only so much Aragorn can do, There's only so much he can kill in a turn. And obviously, a Tiger tank is something that carries a lot of weight in World War II history. You imagine certain things when you hear Tiger tank, and it just wasn't that scary for me playing bolt action.
I mean,
I basically ignored it.
Tiger tanks are notoriously overestimated in history. Well,
yes, yeah.
Like, let's have a quick. Can we get like a jingle for Barnard's history moment or something? I now ruin the podcast by being very boring, but everyone always goes on about them being amazing.
Sorry, you weren't being boring before. You were being interested.
I was being interested before. About to.
So when did this start? We've been on for like 2 hours.
This is the 10th episode, so someone really should have been awareness, don't they? Tiger tanks were like amazing in a vacuum, as long as like you didn't expose them to mud or were fine.
Or war. Yeah,
drive around the car park of the factory. They were excellent.
Like these things were like ridiculous because the Germans were like, let's build a tank where it's like impossible to replace like the track, and let's build a tank which is so complicated engineering wise that no one understands how they work. Who's actually driving them? And let's build a tank that requires so many resources that we can only afford to actually build about 1,000 of them because they're so expensive. Like, there were barely any in existence. Like,
I think
there would have been like one Tiger tank for every like 300,000 Germans fighting in the army. There'd have been one Tiger tank. Like, there were barely any of them.
I think the
thing is, 30,000. I might have got my maths wrong.
I think 300,000 sounds like a lot. The game obviously assumes that there is a Tiger tank that's shown up that is fully functional. And in the game, I mean, it's got rules like Tiger Fear, where your opponent's units suffer like morale effects because they can see a Tiger tank. And it was just one of those. It wasn't as good as history made up, which is probably historically accurate, like you were saying.
In a skirmish game, you probably shouldn't have a Tiger tank.
No.
But obviously they're going to have one because people want to buy the TIE tank.
I mean, it's cool, but
cool. But in reality,
I guess if you ever did see one on the battlefield, you probably would be like, "Oh my, like, fuck me, like we're in trouble." But then you never saw them because they always broke down or whatever.
But historically, by the time they were using TIE tanks, the Germans were struggling to get enough fuel, and the Russians could probably build about 10 like T-34s.
I thought more than that. Well, that was how they
the
won,
Russians.
wasn't it?
Oh my! The Russians were pumping out the T-34s.
You just have like 20 T-34s racing across the battlefield, and the TIE tanks can't actually hit them.
The
so
beauty is that the Russians built the T-34s just well enough for them to basically make it into combat and get blown up / blow someone else up, whereas the Germans were like, yeah, it'll last forever if it stays in the car park, but otherwise, but I mean,
like the T-34s, you could basically like blow off the track, and you could just basically screw it on with like a fucking hand screw. I'm being a little bit kind of like there's a little bit of hyperbole going, dramatic effect, but like the Tigers were like, you have to basically remove half the tank to actually change essentially like the equivalent of a car's tire. Like it's just it's appallingly designed for anything other than like the perfect situation.
There's a good analogy for this, and it's that the Germans built it in terms of quality for it to function at an incredible rate while it worked, whereas the Russians, the quality aspect was that you could repair it. It was quality if you could repair it, not if it could break, but if you could repair it. And it's exactly like you're saying.
That's the same reason why the Germans were so successful, the Americans, and why the British ended up using the Shermans was because good. Whilst the British tanks were quite slow.
Because the Russians made the T-34, then stuck with it, didn't they? Whereas the Germans were constantly trying to improve and like they updated stuff.
Well,
the Germans, they edited their tanks like every week. They changed they tweaked something, whereas the Russians were like, "This is the blueprint. Pump out 10,000 of them."
Yeah.
But it just
sent to Siberia.
It makes me think the way picking the Tiger tank. It makes me think when I design a list, I almost think, what are people going to bring? If they're going to bring a tank, I'm just going to bring all the stuff that doesn't care if there's a tank there. If I just bring shit infantry, what's your tank going to do? If I just bring all hobbits, what's your insane hero going to do? He's going to kill hobbits. It's not going to matter. On the other hand, if my opponent, if I think they're going to be a tank and then 3/4 of their army is going to be infantry, I just bring all tanks. What's your rifle going to do against my tank? Nothing. Half your army is going to be superfluous against mine. And that's kind of what happened with the Tiger tank. And that's why I think I overestimated it.
Good. We will then conclude this week's podcast. Hit that bell. Subscribe.
Like.
Comment below with things that
share
you
with your friends on
overestimated. Yeah. Just share it with people that you haven't spoken to in 10 years.
On the street, you know? Conversation starter. Icebreaker at a party.
If you're buying a coffee at Starbucks, let the barista know.
Yep.
That's what I say. Yeah. Good. Next week, we will be starting our look at War in Rohan.
Exciting.
Or it's not called War in Rohan, it's called Rohan at War. What's it called?
I think it's called War in Rohan.
They named consecutive source books War in Gondor. Oh no, Gondor.
War at War. See, you're getting me confused. They're very different.
For God's sake.
I'll cut this. I won't, because I'll have forgotten by now.
Well, leave it in.
It's a dead giveaway because of all those Gondor legions that were in Gondor at War.
True. You can see why one is named after Rohan. Because,
well, they couldn't name them both Rohan at War, could they? That would have been a giveaway that all the rules writers just want to play Rohan.
Rohan get all the love, yeah. We'll be back with 2 Legendary Legions from War in Rohan.
In a week's time.
Yes, and we'll leave you there. It is then goodbye from everyone's favourite member of the podcast, the mayor.
I thought you were going to say
Goodbye,
me.
everyone. I knew that was coming. Have a fantastic weekend.
And it's also goodbye from a man who hates Urukai.
Remember to ding that bell.
It's bye from me. See you later, guys.